네, 이어서 글로벌 코어포레이션을 진행하겠습니다. 스타트업이 주목해야 할 신대륙, 아프리카, 그 기회와 도전이라는 주제로 세션을 진행하겠습니다. 그럼 연사분들을 소개해드리겠습니다. 첫 번째로 탄자니아 스타트업 협회 CEO이신 자호로 무하지님, 그리고 탄자니아 대사관에서 오신 His Excellency 토고라니 에드리스 마브라 대사님 두 분을 모시고 함께 진행해 보겠습니다. 연사분 무대 위로 올라오실 때 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. So are you two gentlemen ready? All right, so the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. As I introduced, my name is Zahoro Muhaji, and I'm a CEO for Tanzania Startup Association. Tanzania Startup Association is an association which brings together the stakeholders of startup ecosystem in Tanzania. These including startup businesses, incubators, accelerators, and the sole aim of having an association is to lobby and advocate for enabling environment for startups to grow in our country. So we tend to focus more on things like policies, laws, regulations, etc. A brief overview of our startup ecosystem. Tanzania startup ecosystem, it's on its early stage, but growing really fast with a huge number of startups. Last year, as an ecosystem, we attracted at least $96 million in venture funding into our ecosystem, which has been growing. For a year before, in 2020, it was $30 million. So there's a huge interest in growing for investment in our ecosystem. And with me on the stage is our ambassador to South Korea, His Excellency Togolani Mavura. Welcome. You can grab a mic, so I have some few questions. And we will be discussing a little bit more about Tanzania startup ecosystem, our collaboration with Korea, but also his time here. So, my first question, tell us about yourself. How long you've been in Korea as an ambassador, and what you have learned so far, plus what's your main focus during your time in South Korea as an ambassador?
Thank you so much, Zahoro. I arrived here in Korea last year in November 11th. And so tomorrow, it will be exactly 1 year since I arrived in Seoul.
Whoa.
As an ambassador.
Thank you.
And one of my quick achievements is to bring you to be able to be on the same stage with Tanzania Startup Association and the linkage between TSA and COMEUP and also TS participation in the Splash 2022. I'm the second ambassador of my dear country to Korea, and I'm young as I look, and so my understanding, my passion for startup is quite very high. And I was mesmerized by the technological advancements in Korea, and I understand that the youth in Tanzania, where I came from, are also very enthusiastic about technology, very enthusiastic about startup. They want trying to change the ecosystem. And while in Tanzania, I happen to be member of actually one of the founder members of Tanzania Startup Association, and the board member coming from the government. So I'm among the early adapters within the government to share my experience, my knowledge, and support to the Tanzania startup ecosystem. And so my wish while I'm here is to try and see how I can link the startup from Korea and startup Tanzania working together. I've been to NIPA, National Internet Promotion Agency. I've been to Socho, Smart Youth Center. I'm working closely with Josh here at the COMEUP to see how we can propel, because I believe the future is startup. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your good answer. You as an ambassador, Tanzania, it's a very young nation with average age of 18 years old. With our population close to 60 million. And like many other African countries, there's a huge issues around poverty, but also unemployment. What do you think entrepreneurship and innovation and startups are very important for Tanzania?
Yes, quite. I agree. We have a very relatively very young country. 65 to 70% is under 35. So young people. So yes, and the poor country as well, as you said, we have just moved to low-income developed countries, but we are yet to attain the levels that Koreans are in. So one of the success in secrets here in Korea is the embracement of technology, entrepreneurship. And I believe it can work in Tanzania. It worked in US, it worked in elsewhere in the world. And my argument is, what is all about startup? It's simply about imagination, allowing the power of imagination, creating a space to foster innovation, and allowing disruption, all right? So to have all these three things, you need young people. That's number one. That's the biggest capital. Because it's when you are young where you can imagine the world is infinite. You can think of everything, anything. Okay? When you are young, it's easy to be disrupted. It is easy to disrupt. It's easy to dare to challenge the status quo, to challenge the way things are done. But as well, it is easy to embrace change. And since we have that pool in our country, and I've seen, even in a smaller scale, what young people are doing already in Tanzania in this startup ecosystem, I'm convinced that if they are given more opportunity in terms of backup support, like how to, because you have innovators, but how to scale up, how to pitch in the global markets, but also access to capital and the new technology. I believe they can do wonders. I'm 40, at 42, at my age, I'm already conservative in a way, but a young person at 20, early 30s, can imagine of changing the world. We all, at some point of time, wanted to change this world until we get to our age and we realize that we need only to manage to survive in the same world. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much, His Excellency. I believe not only Tanzania, but other African countries can provide a lot of new opportunities for Korean startups, for Korean investors, for Korean corporates. What opportunities you think Korean economy, Korean private sector can take advantage back home in Tanzania?
Yes, I see a lot of opportunity for Korean startups to venture into Africa, into Tanzania in particular, and make a huge difference. I say that because of relatively 2 or 3 factors. Number one, they are in a place in the world where technology is so much advanced, right? So they have the skills and technology that is not available in part of our countries. So, but that technology needs to be unleashed and used somewhere, which comes to point number 2. The competition here is stiff for startups. Because you have a lot of startups, you have a lot of ideas, and they're all good ideas, right? So since the competition is higher here, when they come to Africa, they find a place where competition is less higher. So something here can go to a startup that has not been able to do so good here can do so good in Africa and make a lot of difference. But third, we have the problems, because at the end of the day, startups are about solving problems. Okay? So many of the problems or challenges of today, they're in Africa, be it infrastructure related, be it service related, be it diseases, being anything. So there's a lot of need for solutions in Africa than in Korea, because many solutions are already provided here. So it's a question of application of your technology, joining with, because you have technology and capital, join with the Tanzanian startups who have the knowledge of the environment, they have insight of the country, and they have that imagination. If you pair, you can do wonders. You can create big companies out of Africa. That's what I believe. And just to say, the amount, because I'm seeing startups back home, they are pitching, they are looking for a seed amount of something around $10,000 to $50,000. So in Tanzania, raising that one could be a lot of money. But in Korea, that's not too much. So a startup that considers itself here very small can come to Tanzania and be an investor in another startup in Tanzania and make a huge difference. That's what I'm encouraging to do.
Okay, thank you so much. Personally, being in the ecosystem in Tanzania, one of my very favorite startup success story is this startup called Copagas. As His Excellency said that Africa startups are all about solving problems and pain points. In Africa, we have a lot of problems to solve. Too many problems, we can't die poor now. One of my favorite startup in Tanzania, it's called Copagas. What they do, it's simple. You know, in Africa, people use what we call charcoal, which is technically cutting down forest and make a charcoal, burn it and make it a charcoal for people to use for cooking. It's a way of traditional people doing, used to observe the cooking gas, but it really destroys the environment. And with climate change right now, people are looking for alternatives ways, they can find another methods for modern day cooking. So what Copagas does, it's simple. They give access to household for LPG gas for cooking, but with an option to pay as you go. A lot of Tanzanians and many people in Africa prefer charcoal because it's the only source of energy which you can buy in smaller quantity. Normally, you can buy for $0.50, let's say. But if you want to access LPG, you have to buy at a go, at least $25. So what they did is just give people a pay-as-you-go option through mobile money, which is very big in Africa. Not so many people have access to banking, but they use mobile money. So if you have a mobile money, you can just go on the application, send $50. They let you access LPG gas in your home for that certain amount. So that has managed to move a lot of people from using traditional charcoal to cooking gas, which saves a lot of forestry and, of course, has a huge positive impact on climate. And that startup just a year ago did raise $25 million from investors. So that is one of the key success story in Tanzania. So there's an opportunity for you guys who wants to venture into our ecosystem. But also I have to mention that Tanzania is a country of 61 million people, but we do have access to the, what I would say, African continent market, which has a billion people. So from Tanzania, you can start your startup and scale all over Africa. Back to you, Ambassador. I have another question. You work for government, right? And you are here to represent the interest of Tanzania, and you are the bridge between Tanzanian government and Korean government. As I know, South Korea government has been giving a lot of official development assistance to the country. Tanzania is one of the biggest beneficiaries of South Korean government assistance. What role do you see official development assistance play on developing startup ecosystem back in Tanzania?
Oh, thank you. I must acknowledge first and foremost that Tanzania and Korea enjoys a very good relations, 30 years, and we are a strategic country to Korea. So we receive a lot of ODA from the KOICA funds and as well as EDCF, Economic Development Cooperation Fund from the Korean Exim Bank. One thing I know, all right, because I had an opportunity to meet both these two organizations. I gave them a challenge. It's like, fine, but apart from the ODA, because ODA is not our fate. I mean, we shouldn't be the ODA receiver every day. The best way is how we can build business between Tanzania and Korea out of this ODA. Why can't we think of channeling this ODA in promoting startups so that they can do business if it's an implementation of the projects that ODA is supporting, but as well just building their capacity to be able to venture and pitch. So I'm happy to say that our conversation is going so well. KOICA, I know they are considering having a startup program starting 2024. We are still in the development of that program to support Tanzania ecosystem by linking it to the Korea ecosystem and see how the two startups can be able to take off together. But apart from the KOICA fund, which is much known, I understand that in Korea, almost every department, almost every ministry has an ODA component, right? So that's something that Korean startups can use to come to Africa. But as well, there's another opportunity apart from the ODA. They call ESG nowadays. We used to call corporate social responsibility, CSR. I know of the one NGO here that is receiving ESG funds from the SK, if I'm not mistaken. They've come with an idea of a solar cow. A solar cow is a startup that help children to find energy. So by giving sort of like a radio bulb that they can go to school and charge through a solar, and then so in the evening after attending the school, they can go back home with a full radio and a torch. It's a radio and a torch. That is so they can have a light to study at night in the families that they don't have electricity, but they can also have a radio to listen to with their families. So that startup idea is encouraging young people to go to school every day. So attendance in school has rose in those areas where children are getting this solar cow. So they're going to school every day. So attendance has gone high, and at the same time, energy at home to reduce use of charcoal and everything. So after that pilot they have done through ESG, I understand that now they are applying for the fund from the GCF here in Korea, because it's climate change related. And discussions are going on so well, and we as an embassy, we are supporting them to access the GCF fund so that they can implement their project in Tanzania. I believe, as I said, there are so many ODAs funds in Korea. It's a question of how we partner between our ecosystem and Korean ecosystem so that young people here, startups here, who have solution to some of these problems, they can access these funds. So I understand the Korean startups can access these funds. The only challenge I see now is even if they do that, they don't have the counterparts on the other side. So our embassy is ready to do the linkage, and I believe ODA is the best way to start bridging the vehicle, because it's a money that gives a lot of comforts for a young business, a new business which is trying to venturing out, which wants to take a risk, because it's not easy to take a risk with your own money sometimes, and probably you might not give in a loan to go to Africa to try your startups. But through ODA, it's a safer money for startups to try to Africa. I believe after this startup, after it succeeded in Tanzania with these projects, probably it may become a business and try to see how it can expand. So I see the future in that. We'll try to do our level best. And if there's any startup here has an idea where it think it can access any ODA, we are here to support, to say that's something we need in back home, give all the political support that is needed to come and join the startups in Tanzania and do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to point out to our audience that we will also take at least 2 questions from you. So if you have a question, so please prepare it. I'll open the floor to you guys. Another question, Mr. Ambassador. If someone comes to you right now from Korea and says, I want to go to Tanzania to invest, to do business, which sectors do you think offer the best opportunity for Korean businesses?
Wow, that's quite a tough question. It's a tough question because we are at the stage, I said earlier, we are a low-income country at the moment. We are at that stage where we can absorb almost everything. Much as we have a bigger land, we have a challenge of food security. So if you have a startup that comes with a solution on the food preservation, food logistics, things like, we have this artificial intelligence, use of drones in agriculture. That's something that we welcome, because we are trying to mechanize our agriculture. In the area of blue economy, we welcome that one. But in the tech solutions, that industry is so much ready to absorb almost everything. We have a lot of challenges relating to provision of social services in a faster and efficient way to people. So the government is absorbing such kind of solution. We have a growing telecom company and IT companies in Tanzania. And one of the areas they are struggling so much so far is on e-marketing, delivery. So I see companies like Coupang and they're doing so much best. So opportunity in that area are a mess. That's what I can say. But almost every other, as I said, we are the country with a lot of pinpoints. So they need solutions. So any other solution. Embassy, our task will be to guide you on appropriate area, give you the context, give you the data that you may need, and give you the linkage that you may need.
Okay, thank you. I want to use this last 8-9 minutes before our session closes to take some questions from our audience. So maybe if there's any question, someone should raise their hand. I believe the organizer can pass the mic.
And this question should go to Zahoro as well, because he's actually coming from the ecosystem.
Right. I think I'll address the question to you, Your Excellency, as well as Zahor. I'm working as an attorney here in Korea. We are a law firm specializing in startups. We're trying to branch out globally. Our main focus so far has been the US and the Silicon Valley, but we're also very interested in the African side of the startup scene. And our question is that we want to help Korean startups branch out to African markets and help solve some of the challenging issues that you face. Through the course, one of our key questions that we might have is that would the embassy or the Tanzania Startup Association be able to sort of coordinate Korean startups meeting up with partners inside of Tanzania, preferably organic startups that have been founded within Tanzania, so that instead of Korean startups just branching out and having to start from ground up, they can liaise with the startups that are already founded within the Tanzanian border and sort of build a partnership and build a working network.
Okay, thank you for your question. I think that is something. First thing first, I'm very happy to hear that you are into law and you are specializing in startup. I think this is something really needed even back home. We have a huge law firm, but of course they tend to cater for traditional businesses. None of them are based on innovation and startups, and we have a lot of issues there, even regarding things like IP, etc. And I think having people who specialize in that is very good. To answer your question is, yeah, that's something we can do, and that's why I'm here. I must say that I'm here on an invitation of Korea Startup Forum, which it's like an association here. We as TSA, Tanzania Startup Association, we do have partnership with Korea Startup Forum. And the whole aim to have that is, of course, to foster collaboration. So if you have Korean startups looking to branch in Tanzania, please, you can reach out to us directly, but you can reach out also to Korea Startup Forum, and we'll be happy to help you on the ground. From the day you land at the airport to everything there on the ground, we are ready to support you logistically. Thank you.
Just to add, soon after we are getting out of here, TSA and Korea Startup Forum, they are going to sign a memorandum of understanding, MOU, that will now bridging a bridge for such kind of collaboration. But again, I was happy to hear that you're coming from the law side, and especially law related to startups, because one of the challenge that we are still struggling with, we are doing back home, is trying to review the policy, actually enacting a startup policy, putting in place startup policy, and it's an advanced stage now. Consultation have gone so far. But when it comes to law, we still need to change some laws. And one of the area or one of the things we need to learn much is how this startup law works in Korea. Because we believe the legal environment is very, very important in putting a conducive environment for the startups to grow. But also, again, startups are global. Startups are not meant to be local, like any other SME. So it's a question of also, after even having our laws inside, our laws should be able to be in sync with other legal regimes elsewhere in the world, including the well-advanced system in Korea, so that our startups can have a collaboration and partnership with other startups across the world. So far, the challenge that we have, including the Copaga, some of them, they have to go and register in other legal regimes, which allow for a global kind of expansion. So we'll take your contact, we'll need your advice, and we welcome you there. Thank you.
Another question? Another question? Okay, so we are left with 4 minutes. Maybe His Excellency, you'll give us your final remarks. But before that, just a small question. I know our Prime Minister, Honorable Kassim Majaliwa, was here in Korea, and one of the areas he visited was Pangyo Valley, where he witnessed a lot of tech startups which are based there. Can you tell us a brief, in 1 minute, what was the experience of Prime Minister visit to Pangyo?
Thank you. Just 2 weeks ago, our Prime Minister from Tanzania was here, and he met his counterpart, Honorable Minister Han. And one of the discussion was to Korea and Tanzania working together to build a digital technology institute in Tanzania, right? And the idea that we have is something around what Pangyo Techno Valley is. So he himself had the opportunity. I took him to Pangyo. We had a discussion there. He saw by himself the tremendous work that has been taking place. And he was he left there very much reassured. Actually, one of the discussions that they had was how can the Pangyo Tech Valley work in collaboration in helping Tanzania to establish this institute. And we believe this institute will have a catalytic effect in making this dream and this journey fruitful. So we're already collaborating from government to government side. Things are not going so well. Now it's a question about from you and them. We are ready to facilitate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I said, we as Tanzania Startup Association were very ready to foster the collaboration with our counterparts in Korea. And personally, my dream is to see Korean startups who wants to venture into Africa using Tanzania as a launch pad. We, as I said earlier, we are very ready much to facilitate, welcome, and make sure that you get all the support you need to start to scale your business there, but also for those who are willing to come do accelerator programs, incubators, but also wants to invest. You're all welcome. Our embassy is here very much open in Seoul, but also through Korea Startup Forum and TSA, you can reach direct. Any other question before we wrap up? We have like 2 minutes left. A gentleman there, quick, please be brief. We just only have 2 minutes. Sorry, use the mic.
Oh, hello. I was kind of wondering, what's the best way for us to understand, like out in the East, what the infrastructure is like in Tanzania and Africa, and how like a startup would kind of integrate into the infrastructure there?
Okay. Good question. Tanzania, I believe we have not much advanced infrastructure like here you have in Korea, but we have a good enough for one to start and start operating. We have number of incubators, we have number of innovation hubs where you can easily go and plug in and start working and networking and meet a lot of people. Our ecosystem is not that big, so it's very easy to meet everybody easily. And we have something in Tanzania which we tend to call it Silicon Da, which is a stretch of like 4 kilometers where almost 90% of innovation hubs, incubators, and accelerators are along that road. So if you plug in there, it's easy to get the support, get to meet people. We have a good, not as the fastest internet speed, but of course we have a Wi-Fi cable going around the country, so the country is very much connected. So it's easy to start and scale, and also it's easy to get integrated in a community. We have number of course, what you could say ecosystem events like this, which are very much open. So for someone who's willing to come down to Tanzania, it's very easy to get connected and start and be familiar with the ecosystem. Okay,
2 seconds. 2 seconds. Africa is 54 countries, right? So simple statistics. 4 countries attracting startups: Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, and Tanzania. Done.
Good one. Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for the insightful talk. His Excellency.